Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the SimNFL show. Real talk about fake sports. I am your host and commissioner. You can call me Pierce. Football is back at SimNFL, and so are we. Today, we're going to be discussing all of the Week 1 action of the 2026 season over at SimSN. If you're unfamiliar, come check us out on the website and on Discord. We would love to have you. So today, we'll be discussing all of the Week 1 action and covering the stats and summaries of all the big games. And we will finish that with my picks for the players of the week. We'll do a quick injury update, and then our special segment today is hot takes and overreactions. It's week 1, so we love to see how people react to the very first game of the season. So we'll discuss some of the best takes that I gathered from around the users in the SimNFL and my reaction to those, and maybe add a few of my own. And then we will end everything with a preview for the upcoming week 2. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So the very first Sunday game was between the Buffalo Bills and the Cleveland Browns, an AFC matchup in which the Browns came out ahead. The Browns returned to the opening kickoff, Robert Davis, all the way back to the 8-yard line. Unfortunately, they were unable to punch it in, settled for a field goal. Buffalo's first possession ended with a Yusei Asensio interception by strong safety Ken Miller. Cleveland drove 41 yards in 11 plays, with Dominic Enku having his first official touchdown pass to William Mass for 7 yards, giving the Browns a 10-point lead. But the Bills would respond. Asensio went 4 for 4 on their next drive, setting up Mickey Brogdon for a 23-yard touchdown run to cut the lead to 3. Going to the third quarter now with the score tied at 10, Asensio had a 32-yard run and then hit Donatello Scott for a 4-yard touchdown. Asensio was 5 for 5 on that drive, and that gave Buffalo their first lead at 17-10. But Cleveland would come right back. They would put together a 15-play drive, including 4 third-down conversions. They drove 65 yards, with Travis Cole getting the final 6 with his touchdown run, tying it back up at 17. Then the wheels kind of came off for Buffalo. Asensio threw his second interception. This went to linebacker Lewis Dell, leading to a touchdown catch by William Mass to give the Browns back the lead. And then another Asensio interception, his third of the game, led to Dominic Enku using his legs, a 32-yard run, and then a 17-yard touchdown run, giving the Browns their biggest lead of the game at 31-17. Donald Kelly would return the ensuing kickoff all the way to the Browns' 3-yard line, setting Asensio up for a touchdown pass to Adams. Bills went for 2, did not get it, so it was an 8-point lead at that point. Then in the fourth quarter, Buffalo put together one of their best drives of the game, 14 plays, going 65 yards. They were aided by a defensive holding call on a 3rd and 12. Brogdon punched it in from 2 yards out for his second touchdown, but they missed the 2-point conversion again, meaning it was 31-29 with about 9 minutes to go. After trading punts, Buffalo drove to the Cleveland 46, but they threw incomplete on 3rd and 7, were forced to punt with just about 4 minutes to go. Cleveland got 2 first downs on runs by Juan Mora and Dominic Enku to seal the game. So Asensio, 2 touchdowns, but 3 crucial interceptions in the game. Dominic Enku, not a great game statistically, only 64 passing yards, but 2 touchdown passes and 66 yards and a score with his legs. Juan Mora, 36 carries, 133 yards, and the Browns hold on for the 2-point victory in this game. The Jaguars and the Panthers had a high-scoring contest. Jacksonville got the first touchdown of the game, Hugh Kahn running it in from 2 yards out. But then Carolina responded, Link finding Fernando Owens for 42, and then Russell Barnes for a 7-yard touchdown. Link's first of many touchdowns in the game, gave him a 10-7 lead at that point. Carolina on their next drive, Link hit Owens for 20, Lovejoy for 20, and then Kelvin Dupree ran it in from 7 yards out to widen the lead to 10. And then back again in the second quarter, Link, Owens for 17, Barnes for 25, Barnes for 19, Owens for a 14-yard touchdown. Panthers 24-7 lead at that point, and they were rolling. Jacksonville did respond. Howard hit Hugh Kahn, who had a tremendous day receiving out of the backfield. That catch went for 27, and then they added 15 for a roughing call at the end. And then more completions to Kahn for 16, and then 12 for a touchdown. missed the extra point, so it was 24-13 at that point. Then Carolina drove to the Jacksonville 38, but went for it on 4th and 8 and were stopped. Howard found Bolden for a 46-yard gain, setting up Peterson for a 5-yard touchdown run, meaning it was 24-20 at halftime. Third quarter, Carolina drove again, this time down to the Jacksonville 7, but an interception by Trayvon Johnson killed that drive and denied the Panthers more points. But they'd be back again on their next drive with Link hitting Owens for a 10-yard touchdown to go up 31-20. In the fourth quarter, Link hit Dupree for a 28-yard touchdown, and then on the next drive, Fernando Owens for a 16-yard touchdown, giving Link 5 touchdown passes for the game and making the lead 45-20 at that point. Subs came in, and Matt Howard made a big completion to Hugh Kahn for a 21-yard gain on 3rd and 9, and then found Bolden for a 4-yard touchdown. And then on the final drive of the game, Howard found Kahn 3 more times for another 66 receiving yards and another receiving touchdown for the final score. So this one was not as close as the 11-point game might suggest, but the Jaguars did end up amassing some huge stats. Matt Howard, 365 yards and 3 touchdowns, 2 of them to Hugh Kahn, who also had 3 total touchdowns on the game. But Dakota Link was absolutely unstoppable. 528 yards, 5 touchdowns and a pick, 244 yards and 3 scores to Fernando Owens. Andrej Harris also had a fantastic game with 4 passes defended for Carolina as they come away with the win here. The Lions and Eagles had a crucial NFC matchup where the Lions came out ahead. In the second quarter, with the scores tied 3-3, Gilberto Silva returned a kickoff to the Lions' 15-yard line, setting up Rashawn Alsadek for a 7-yard touchdown run and the first score of the game. But Detroit would respond to tie it up, with Hansen finding Tremaine Craig for a 21-yard gain on 3rd and 9, and then Hansen carrying it in himself from 5 yards out, tie the game at 10. Later in the first half, Thomas Bullock for the Lions would return a punt to the Eagles' 11-yard line. 2 plays later, Hansen found rookie Tony Sherman for a 2-yard touchdown, and the Lions took the lead. In the third quarter, Hansen and Poole threw back-to-back interceptions, and then with the Lions retaining possession, the Eagles were called for defensive holding on a crucial 3rd and 5, giving them a first down. And then on 3rd and 3, Thomas Bullock had a 6-yard touchdown catch, giving the Lions, extending their lead 24-13. In the fourth quarter, Eagles put a drive down to the Lions' 18-yard line, but Badgley was stuffed on a 3rd and 1 for no gain. Eagles settled for a field goal to make it technically a 1-score game at 24-16. Detroit then drove into Eagles territory, but a Hansen interception to Andrew Kangas killed that drive. Philadelphia punted. Hansen threw another interception, this time to Ryan Reininger. Eagles drove to the Detroit 25, but David Sparacino forced an Alsadek fumble, and the Lions recovered, so still no points from that drive. Lions retaining the lead. With about just under 7 minutes to go, and the ball on the Eagles' 36-yard line, the Lions converted a 4th and 9, with Hansen throwing 14 yards to Sebi Bizzardo. They got to the 10-yard line until Hansen threw yet another interception to Kangas. So the Eagles still were within striking range. They drove to midfield. There was a final pass to Matthew Lee, the tight end, which got them to the 34-yard line, but time expired, and the Lions hung on for the victory despite Hansen's 4 interceptions. He did score 3 touchdowns, 2 through the air, 1 on the ground. Aaron Poole held out of the end zone and only 3 carries for 11 yards, and a pair of giveaways for the Eagles as well. So despite the interceptions from Reininger and Kangas, the Eagles fall to the Lions 24-16. In the Jesse Knoll revenge game, the Jets came out ahead, and Knoll beat his old team, the Cowboys, by a score of 20-12. Knoll's very first pass was a 41-yarder to running back Nick Suarez on a 3rd and 13. Unfortunately, that drive only led to a missed field goal. But later Suarez would get into the end zone, a 17-yard carry for a touchdown, giving the Jets the early 7-3 lead. Dallas would get, it was 10-6 right before halftime when Dallas missed a 46-yard field goal that would have made it a 1-point game. Later in the third, Noel threw his first interception of the game to Jason Smothers. Vladimir Dawson had a 20-yard run for the Cowboys, which set them up for another attempt at a 46-yard field goal. This one was made, making it 10-9 at that point. Later, they would add a 26-yarder to take the lead 12-10. But Noel put together a 12-play drive for the Jets, including hitting Huber for an 8-yard gain on 3rd and 8. That led to a Jordy Breland field goal from 29 yards out, and the Jets retook the lead 13-12. Cecilio Fuentes then threw an interception to Roger Swimmer. Noel found Huber again for a 23-yard gain and then a 2-yard touchdown, making it 20-12. And then in the fourth quarter, the teams combined for 6 consecutive 3-and-outs, with no one able to move the ball. Finally, in the final 2 minutes, Dallas converted a 4th and 5, finally getting a first down and drove to midfield. But then Chris Brooks was hit by De Girolamo and fumbled. De Girolamo recovered the fumble, and that ended the game. Jets ran out the clock from there. So Jesse Noel victorious against his old team, 195 yards passing, a touchdown and interception. Nick Suarez, 92 total yards from scrimmage with a score, and De Girolamo with 3 sacks and that game-clinching fumble recovery. For the Cowboys, Eric Simon had a fantastic day with 12 tackles and 7 tackles for loss. The Cowboys were unable to get into the end zone, and ultimately that meant they fell short, with the Jets winning by 8. When we go to the afternoon slot, and the big story here is the emergence of David Chop as the new quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs. Cincinnati started things off with their first score. They drove 71 yards on the opening drive. Chris Frazier had a great game, and he found Charles Aarons for a 12-yard touchdown. And then on Kansas City's first drive, Chop actually threw an interception to a defensive tackle, and the big man returned it 50 yards back to the Chiefs' 5-yard line. Pat Smith ran it in from there, and the Bengals were up 14-0. The Chiefs would drive to the Cincinnati 42, but they would fail on a 4th and 10. Bengals would use the good field position to get into field goal range and extend their lead to 17-0. But then Chop finally woke up. He found Michael Walker for 51 yards to convert a 3rd and 9, and then threw a 1-yard touchdown pass to James Carter. Extra point was missed, so it was 17-6 at that point. Next drive, Kansas City drove 80 yards in 11 plays. Chop found Walker for a 4-yard touchdown on 3rd and goal. Converted the extra point there to cut the lead down to 4. And then right before half, Kansas City drove to the Bengals' 18-yard line before running short on time and kicking a field goal to cut the lead to 1. So it was 17-16 at the half. Chiefs almost erasing that early Bengals lead. In the third quarter, Chop took back over. He had a 15-yard completion to convert a 3rd and 15, then ran for a 29-yarder, but then threw an interception to Dilip Tran, ending that drive at the Bengals' 31. Bengals would come back, Frazier hitting Charles Aarons for 18 and 15-yard gains, and then connecting again for a 4-yard touchdown for 24-16, extending the lead. But Chop came right back, found Walker for 25 and 22-yard gains, then hit King Angeles for a 25-yard touchdown. And then Chop took it himself, rushing in a 2-point conversion to tie it at 24. But then the floodgates completely opened. Frazier threw an interception to Benedict DeLuna. DeLuna returned it to the Cincinnati 7-yard line. Chop carried it in from 4 yards out for a touchdown. Chiefs defense got a stop on the next drive, and DeLuna returned the punt 90 yards for a touchdown, making it 38-24 at that point. In the fourth quarter, after the Bengals missed a field goal, Carter had a 44-yard run, and then Chop hit tight end Jin Zhang for a 3-yard touchdown, his 5th score, Chop of the day. That made it 45-24 at that point. Cincinnati stuck it out. They drove 80 yards in their next 11 plays. Frazier finding James Smith for a 21-yard touchdown, missing a 2-point conversion to cut the lead to 15. Kansas City milked the clock, and then right before the final gun, kicked a 42-yard field goal to make the final score 48-30. Chiefs setting what I believe to be a franchise record for points scored in a game, breaking their old record of 47 from a game against Jacksonville in 2023. So big coming out performance for David Chop in his first game in the red and gold. 298 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, a further 65 yards rushing, and a 5th touchdown rushing. Tony McCura had a great game, 3 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. Frazier did great for the Bengals, 355 yards, 3 touchdowns, a single pick, 145 yards and 2 scores going to Charles Aarons. But in the second half, the Chiefs really took over. They came back from that early 17-point deficit and ultimately won 48-30 was the final score. In another key NFC interdivisional conflict, Seahawks coming out ahead of the Falcons, 20-17. The Falcons scored first. They had 2 early field goal attempts. They missed from 43, but then hit from 40 to take the first lead of the game. In the second quarter, they went 69 yards in 9 plays, did the Falcons. Michael Fulmer running it in from 9 yards out to make it 10-0. And then just before half, Padilla hit Rosario for 18, and then again for 25. Michael Fulmer ran it in from 2 yards out. And the Falcons had a 17-0 lead. But Seattle put together a 2-minute offense with West hitting Allen for 21 and then Terrence Hoffman for 10. And then just before halftime, they did manage a 35-yard field goal. So cutting the lead to 17-3 at the half. And then the Seahawks came out strong in the second half. West finding his tight end Smith for 15, Hoffman again for 19, McGee rushing it in from 21 yards out, making it a 1-score game at 17-10. Seattle later in the quarter would drive to the Atlanta 8-yard line, but on 3rd and 5, West threw an interception to Adrian Gerner, and they were denied points there. But Seattle forced a punt, got the ball near midfield. That drive ended in a missed 48-yard field goal, so still down 7 at that point. They finally equalized in the fourth quarter with Jeremiah West going 5 for 5 for 66 yards on a drive. Harrison Scott ran it in from 9 yards out, and the extra point tied the game at 17. Padilla threw his first interception to Daniel Mendoza. Seattle drove to the Atlanta 40, but the drive stalled from there, and they settled for a short punt on 4th and 6. So, but then Seattle got the ball back at their own 41-yard line with 3:50 to go. They drove 9 plays and got in range for a 27-yard field goal, which they hit to take their lead. Padilla, on their final drive, did manage to convert a 3rd and 16 by hitting Rafael Rosario for a 22-yard gain, but they got no further and couldn't pass midfield before time expired. So the Seahawks came from behind to win this game. Jeremiah West, 267 yards. Gary Wheeler, phenomenal game on defense with 5 tackles for loss, including a sack. And Mike Hargreaves with 3 passes defended. Michael Fulmer had 111 total yards and 2 touchdowns for the Falcons, and Adrian Gerner had 3 passes defended and a takeaway, but it was not enough for the Falcons as they fall to the Seahawks in Seattle. In a battle of rookie quarterbacks, the Cardinals came out ahead of the Buccaneers, 17-14. Travis Kingery actually scored on his very first, or led a touchdown drive on his very first NFL drive. He carried the ball 5 times for 27 yards. And went 2 for 3 for 13 yards passing. Max Smith ultimately scored from the 1-yard line, so Tampa Bay had the early 7-0 lead there. Then Kingery, on a later drive, hit Stovall for a gain of 17, and then again for 8. They got in range for a 50-yard field goal that missed, so the Buccaneers' lead was still just 7-0. And then, sadly, in the second quarter, Kingery went down with a minor shoulder injury, strained shoulder of his non-throwing arm. Trevon Cothran came in and played the rest of the game. Now, the good news for the Buccaneers is it looks like Kingery will be back for next week. It was not a serious injury, but they did have to finish the game without him despite his strong start. But it was still 7-0 in the second quarter when the Cardinals blocked a punt and recovered it at the Tampa Bay 3-yard line. And then 3rd and goal, Puna Edwards passed to Lance Guimé for a 2-yard touchdown, his first official pro touchdown, tied at 7. In the third quarter, Tampa Bay put together a 13-play drive, which included only 2 passes, but they were crucial. A 14-yard completion on 3rd and 3, and then a 5-yard touchdown pass to tight end Glenn Lloyd, retaking the lead 14-7. Arizona got a very good kickoff return, and then their backup running back, Casey Gallen, pulled off a 53-yard run. That led to a 1st and goal, but the Cardinals were then stuffed at the 1-yard line and settled for a chip shot field goal, cutting the lead to 14-10. In the fourth quarter, Anthony Stovall had a great punt return going all the way to the Cardinals' 26-yard line, but they were unable to gain a single yard from there, and then they missed the 43-yard field goal. So it was still 14-10 at that point, Buccaneers leading. Arizona finally pulled ahead in the fourth, Edwards hitting Jake Greenberg for 12 and 11 yards, and then Darren Albers broke a 30-yard touchdown run, giving the Cardinals the lead 17-14 with about 9 minutes to go. Tampa Bay got 3 more drives. The last one was their best. They reached the Arizona 37-yard line, but instead of a 54-yard tying field goal, they went for it on 4th and 7. Did not get it, and that was it for them. So Puna Edwards gets his first touchdown pass and his first victory, despite just 95 passing yards, but also avoided turnovers. Fellow rookie Caleb Ryder had 4 tackles for loss and 9 total. Again, Kingery looked impressive before leaving with the injury, 7 of 11 for 37 yards and 6 carries for 28 yards. Max Smith added 75 yards and a touchdown. Matthew Zimmer added 4 tackles for loss on defense. But it was the Cardinals who came away with this win in the battle of rookie quarterbacks. So, as for the rest of the Week 1 scoreboard, on Thursday night, on the game opener, Morrison went 21-40 for 236 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, no sacks, leading Washington past Chicago 33-7. Hammonds likewise had a phenomenal game against New England, 25-33, 264 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks, no sacks. Oliveros, in his very first official game with New England, held to 5 of 15 for 51 yards passing and just 4 carries for 3 yards. Pittsburgh beat their rivals, the Baltimore Ravens, 24-3 on the back of fullback Danny Kipnis, 25 carries, 171 rushing yards, and 2 touchdowns, and the defense sacked Savage 6 times in total. The Giants beat the San Francisco 49ers and Scott Romero 21-10. Rudy Stokes was 13 of 23 with 145 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a pick. Also, rookie Donald Dingus had 2 interceptions of Scott Romero. Romero threw 4 in total on the game. Minnesota beat New Orleans 33-16. The teams combined for 109 passing attempts, 624 passing yards, with no passing touchdowns and 1 pick. Notably for Minnesota, RTM had 2 passes defended and a tackle for loss, and rookie Jarvis Morrow had 2 tackles for loss and forced a fumble in the victory. Vegas beat Houston 31-6. Hickson was 27-40 for 362 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, so he did get sacked 5 times. Houston, without Ryan Johnson, had 33 total carries for 63 rushing yards and a fumble, so definitely feeling the loss of their star runner there. Denver beat the Chargers 41-19. Both QBs were their leading rushers. Aguilera, 22 carries, 126 yards. London, 9 carries, 43 yards, 1 touchdown and a fumble. So Denver spread things out between 5 different rushers. Not a huge amount of yards, but they did have 4 different players with a rushing touchdown in the game. On Sunday night, the Rams beat Green Bay 36-24. A duel of veteran quarterbacks. Garibay, 39-54, 473 yards, a touchdown, a pick, sacked twice. Philip Avila, 41 of 57, 471 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, sacked 5 times. Game was close almost the entire way, and then the Rams scored twice in the final 6 minutes and 40 seconds to break away in this one. And then on Monday night, Tennessee beat Indianapolis 19-7. The Tennessee defense held the Colts to 204 total yards, and Sergio Collins ended things with a bang with a pick six to seal the win. So, for our players of the week, a lot of great performances to highlight. Obviously, you have to call out Dakota Link for 500-plus yards and 5 passing touchdowns. Kipnis was phenomenal for the Steelers. As I said, 171 yards and a pair of scores. Hugh Kahn did add a lot of yards against the Carolina backups, but he still had a phenomenal game. 27 touches, 224 yards, and 3 scores. Andrew Richards and Scott Baldwin, both phenomenal receiving performances, over 180 yards each. Ran out of room, but also did want to call out Carlos Ramos with 9 catches for 173 yards, one of the best performances of his young career. On defense, David Tibbetts of Indianapolis had 3 sacks. I also want to mention Michael Dyson of New Orleans, who also had 3 sacks in their game. Eric Simon, as I said, for Dallas, had 7 tackles for loss. Gary Wheeler for Seattle had 5 tackles for loss, including a sack. Andrew Kangas of Philadelphia had 2 interceptions, as did his teammate Ryan Reininger. And then Donald Dingus, a great rookie performance, 2 interceptions from him, and just a single pass allowed for the Giants. So, congratulations on those players for being named my Players of the Week for Week 1. So, it wouldn't be Week 1 without a lot of big reactions over small sample sizes, and that's what we love here. So we're going to go over some of my favorite hot takes, overreactions, and predictions that I gathered from fellow users and talk about them here. First one, Sweezy says Carolina's winning the Super Bowl. I mean, I don't think that's an overreaction. I think they have to be one of the favorites in the NFC, if not the whole league. I know they fell short against Washington last year. I don't think a rematch is out of the cards. But that phenomenal offense with 3 receivers above 80 overall, just absolutely tore it up. They're already in mid-season form. I think that offense is going to be very difficult to stop, and the defense is not shabby either. So I don't think it's an overreaction to at least consider them one of the favorites, particularly, again, in the NFC, if not the entire league. Sweezy also said he thinks that Dallas will miss the playoffs now they don't have Jesse Knoll. I don't think that's an overreaction. Again, it's only one game, but they failed to score a touchdown against what is admittedly a good Jets defensive line. But offense really seemed to miss him. Vladimir Dawson, a converted quarterback, playing at running back, had some good carries. But you look at last year, Dallas was a wildcard team along with Philadelphia and Carolina. And then Seattle and Detroit just missed out. And both Seattle and Detroit just picked up huge conference wins. Carolina, obviously, a powerhouse. Atlanta still looking good. And Philadelphia not to be discounted either. So it's still a tough division. It's a tough conference. And I don't think it's an overreaction to say that Dallas could very well be on the outside looking in this year. Minnow says the Bills should have given up on Asensio. The Bills passed on his 5th-year option, but then signed him to a 3-year, $17.5 million deal with $10 million guaranteed. That did surprise me. I thought when they didn't sign the option, they were going to move on, take their chances either in the draft or free agency. I know they did go eventually get James Rivera from the Browns as a free agent deal when his contract lowered a bit, when he was ready to accept backup money instead of starter money. But we'll see if Rivera ends up with some playing time, because it doesn't look like Asensio is the answer. Browns have a pretty good defense, but I don't think Asensio gives them that spark that they really need to try to stay in games. So I'm surprised he got the new contract. I would not be surprised to see him benched before too long. Sage thinks the Detroit Lions are winning the NFC North. I think that's a bit of an overreaction, just because Green Bay exists and Garibay just threw 473 yards, with just a top rusher of 59 yards. Compare that to Hansen, who had a good day, 33 of 50, 291, but also threw 4 picks, and their top rusher had 60 yards. I think the Lions have set themselves up for success. I think they had a phenomenal draft. I love to see them working their young players in. I think they are on the up trajectory. I don't know if that happens this year. I'm not saying, again, I'm not full going, it's an overreaction. We'll see. I think they're on the right trajectory, and currently, they're ahead of the Packers, but the Packers just played the Rams. Philip Avila passed all over them, and I know Garibay gets some flack for having some Garibay moments, but he's also a phenomenal quarterback on most days. So we shall see. We'll see what happens in the NFC North. Sarge says, Kansas City wins their division, shows you can revamp in a single offseason. I do think the first half of that sentence is an overreaction based on being in a division with Denver. But I think the thing about revamping in a single offseason is true. Picking up David Chop, who was high overall but underperformed in Baltimore, watching him go for 5 touchdowns. Yeah, I don't think they win their division, but I think you can absolutely make huge changes in a single offseason, either with trades or with free agency money. So I like the move for Kansas City, and I think they're on the upward trajectory as well. I don't know if they finish first in the division over the Broncos, but I like what they're doing, Kansas City. New K Bomb says David Chop MVP. Sure, why not? Again, this probably matters in terms of how you frame the MVP discussion. You look at Dean Hammonds and some other guys that put up phenomenal numbers, but you want to talk about value to their franchise. I mean, this was a 6-win team last year, and he came in and put up 48 points. Yes, against a Bengals team that I think is retooling this year. I don't know if he'll have many more 5-touchdown games, but in terms of value to the organization, in terms of what he has done to immediately change the mindset and the outlook for a Chiefs team, sure. I mean, that's value, and that's, if you think of the MVP in that way, in terms of who is, least replaceable to a franchise and most valuable, I think there's an argument to be made there, based on 1 week. But of course, that's what we're all about here. Michael Oliveros is a massive bust. I am ambivalent on that. I do think it's tough looking at a guy with F potential. You kind of need him to be good now because you're thinking his trajectory is not going to be as steep as some other guys that have B or C potential. And to watch him pass to get 5 completions for 51 yards and 4 carries for 3 yards is not great. He did not have any giveaways, which not many rookie quarterbacks can say. So again, only 15 passes and 4 carries. Is that too low of a bar? I don't know. So I think there's cause for concern, as he was, the 4th quarterback taken, but still high up in the 1st. That's a big investment. So certainly some concern, but I'm willing to give a little bit of lead time on this one just to see. And it might also be a case of, what's the team around him? What's the game plan around him? Do they know best how to utilize him? We shall see. So I don't know about massive bust yet. Concern. A level of concern for a top 12 quarterback pick. But again, time will tell. K. Green, the Arizona Cardinals, the team beat for the Super Bowl. Okay, no. Hold on a bit. Puna Edwards passed for 95 yards. And again, avoided takeaways. Congratulations on the victory. But let's remember that last year in week 1, the Cardinals beat San Francisco 28-10. And they ended the season 5-12. And they actually lost their rematch to San Francisco later in the season, which would be the Niners' only win on the year. So great week 1. They defeated Tampa Bay without their starting quarterback, which is similar to last year when they started 2-1 because they beat the 49ers, who would have the number 1 overall pick, and they defeated the Vikings when they didn't have Christian Sinnock. So 1 win. Congratulations, Cardinals. Congratulations, Puna Edwards. It's going to get harder from here, so slow your roll a little bit. And then finally, I thought I'd throw a hot take in there and a prediction. I think less than half of the division champions from last year will repeat. So division champions last year, Miami, Cleveland, Indianapolis, Denver, Washington, Green Bay, Atlanta, and the LA Rams. I'm saying 3 of those at most will repeat as division champions. It's less than half. I think that's a pretty hot take given that you're looking at Miami, Denver, Washington, Green Bay, and the Rams, all perennial contenders. But I think a couple of those could falter or at least have strong teams coming up behind them. I know that's kind of against what I just said about other teams' chances to win their division. But history says that these things roll over. Typically, we have 3 to 5 new division champions every year. So even though it seems like things are pretty static, I think last year 3 of the 4 in the NFC, I think we had 3 repeat champions, and then the Panthers didn't repeat because they lost a tiebreaker to the Falcons, or lost that last week of the season. So it was pretty close. But for as much as we think about, it's the same few teams every year, there really is a lot of turnover at the top of the divisions, and I think that repeats again this year. So I think we have less than half of the division champions from last year repeating in 2026. That is my hot take after week 1. Going into week 2, we start things off on Thursday night with Seattle going to New Orleans to face the Saints. In the early slot, we have a great division game between Detroit and Green Bay. Should be a huge litmus test, again, for those fans who think Detroit has a chance in the NFC North. This is their chance to prove it and get an early 2-game lead. David Chop and Kansas City go to Minnesota, also in the early slot. And then in the afternoon, Vegas is going to go to Tennessee to face the Titans, and we have Arizona getting a much stronger test going to Denver and facing the Broncos. Then Sunday night, we have Jacksonville at Pittsburgh for an AFC interconference matchup. And then Monday night will be the first of 2 games this year between Carolina and Atlanta. Rivals in the NFC South, who last year played in Week 17, and that ended up, or Week 18, the final game of the season, and that decided the division. So they will get a first crack at each other on Monday night. Last year, Atlanta won the first 2 to take the division, but then Carolina beat them in the playoffs to deny them the season sweep. This game is in Atlanta, so we will see what happens on Monday night. But that is everything I have for this edition of the SimNFL show. It's great to be back. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you all on the show next week. And as I say to all users in all of our sims, good luck and have fun.